I'll never forget the weight of that night. I had planned everything down to the smallest detail. A surprise visit, her favorite food tucked under my arm, and a fresh bouquet of roses in my hand. I wanted to remind her that even after years together, I was still the guy who adored her, who believed she deserved to feel loved in the simplest, most genuine ways. As I climbed the stairs to her apartment, I pictured the smile that would light up her face, the way her eyes would crinkle when she laughed. My chest felt warm with anticipation, and I couldn't wait to see her reaction. But as I reached her door, that warmth turned to ice. At first, I heard laughter, low, playful, muffled by the thin walls. Then came a sound no man ever forgets. The kind of sound that makes your stomach knot and your mind scramble for explanations that simply don't exist. Moans. Hers. I froze. My heart was hammering in my chest, the roses trembling in my grip. Maybe I was wrong, I told myself. Maybe the TV was on, maybe friends were over, maybe... But then I heard a man's voice, deep, confident, right where I was supposed to be. My knees felt weak. My throat went dry. I stood there, flowers in hand, listening as my world collapsed behind a door I was too scared to open. I was frozen at the door, gripping the flowers so tightly they started to tear. But what I heard next made my stomach drop. When we first met, it felt like a movie moment. She walked into the coffee shop where I worked part-time, sunlight hitting her hair in a way that made the entire room seem to pause. I was hooked from that very first smile. She had this energy, this confidence, that made you want to be near her. I thought, this is the kind of girl you build a life around. From the beginning, I gave her everything I had. I wasn't rich, but I was hardworking. When she wanted to quit her job to chase her dream of starting a small boutique online, I was the one who picked up extra shifts to help cover her rent. When her car broke down, I lent her mine without a second thought, taking the bus to work so she wouldn't miss a single class or client. It wasn't a sacrifice in my eyes, it was love. And love, to me, meant showing up no matter the cost. But the little things, they were always there. When we walked together in public, she sometimes pulled her hand away the second her friends appeared. When I complimented her, she'd brush it off, saying, "You have to say that, you're my boyfriend." On social media, she posted pictures that looked more like she was single than in a relationship. Guys would flood her comments with heart emojis, and she never told them to back off. I noticed, of course I noticed, but I convinced myself she was just independent, just strong-willed, just her. And I loved her for it. Or at least, that's what I told myself every time my gut whispered that something was off. Looking back, maybe the signs were always there. But I never could have guessed how far she'd take it. Started subtly, like cracks in glass. The kind of things you notice but push aside because you don't want to believe the foundation is breaking. The first time was at a dinner with her friends. We were out celebrating one of their birthdays, and when the conversation shifted to relationships, someone asked how long we'd been together. Before I could answer, she laughed and said, "Oh, he just sort of stuck around. He's harmless." Harmless. The table laughed, but my stomach sank. I tried to smile through it, but that word echoed in my head. Harmless, like I was some background character in her life. Then came the phone. I used to love the way she'd scroll through TikTok beside me, showing me videos she thought were funny. But slowly, she stopped. If I walked into the room, she'd tilt her screen away. If I sat next to her, the phone went face down. One night, her phone buzzed at 1 a.m., and when I asked who it was, she rolled her eyes and said, "Why are you so insecure? It's just a friend." But her tone didn't soothe me, it sliced into me. Another time, she vanished after work. Hours went by. No texts, no calls answered. I stayed up pacing until nearly 3 a.m. When she finally came home, she brushed me off with a casual, "Oh, I lost track of time with the girls. Why are you acting like my dad?" The words stung. I wanted to believe her, but deep down, I felt something wasn't right. Every red flag waved higher, and yet, I clung to the good moments. The way she'd curl into me on the couch, the smile she'd flash when I surprised her with her favorite snack, the rare nights she whispered she couldn't imagine life without me. Those crumbs of affection kept me tethered, even as my gut screamed to let go. And so, instead of confronting the truth, I doubled down on love. I decided to remind her of how much she meant to me, to prove that I wasn't insecure, just devoted. I went to her favorite Thai restaurant, ordered the exact meal she always craved after a long day, picked up her go-to dessert, and even grabbed a little necklace I knew she'd been eyeing online. I told myself it would light up her heart, that maybe she just needed to be reminded of the man standing right in front of her. I packed it all carefully, the food warm against my arm, the necklace tucked neatly into its velvet box, and a bouquet of roses in my hand. I rehearsed the look on her face in my mind, the way she'd laugh and jump into my arms, grateful for the kind of love most people dream of. But love doesn't fix what's already broken. And as I climbed those stairs to her apartment, smiling to myself, I didn't know I was carrying not just dinner and roses, but the last pieces of my own dignity. I thought I was about to give her the best night of her life. Instead, I walked straight into my own worst nightmare. The hallway outside her apartment smelled faintly of cheap perfume and stale takeout, but I barely noticed. My chest was buzzing with anticipation as I balanced the food in one arm, the roses in the other. I slid the key she'd given me into the lock, smiling at the thought of her surprise. The tumblers clicked, the door swung open, and that's when the world stopped. The first thing I heard was her laugh. Not the casual, everyday laugh she gave me, but the kind of breathless, unrestrained laugh that comes from being carefree, comfortable, intoxicated in someone else's company. My eyes adjusted quickly, and the scene hit me like a punch to the gut. Clothes scattered across the floor, the faint rhythm of music still playing from a speaker in the corner. And in the center of it all, her. My girlfriend, wrapped around another man. The roses slipped from my hand, petals scattering on the carpet like a slow-motion explosion. The bag of food hit the ground with a dull thud, the plastic container cracking open and spilling across the floor. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. For a second, I honestly thought I was dreaming. She gasped when she saw me, but not in shame, not even in fear. It was annoyance, pure, unfiltered irritation, like I had just ruined her evening by daring to exist. "What the hell are you doing here?" she snapped, pulling a sheet around herself. The guy beside her smirked, like I was some kind of joke, like I didn't matter. My voice shook when I finally found it. What is this?" She rolled her eyes, as if I were being dramatic. "Don't start, okay? You're not supposed to just walk in unannounced. You're snooping. This is exactly why I can't stand how clingy you've become." Clingy. She was in bed with another man, and the word she chose was clingy. I felt something inside me break. "I worked 2 extra shifts this week to cover your bills. I've been there every time you needed me. I loved you. God, I still love you. And this is what you do." My voice cracked, and I hated how weak it sounded. Her expression didn't soften. If anything, she seemed emboldened. "You don't get it. You smother me. You're always trying to prove something, buying me things, showing up everywhere. It's pathetic. No woman wants a man who can't give her space." Couldn't believe it. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even embarrassed. She was turning it around on me, making me the villain in her story. The other guy chuckled, low and smug. "Man, maybe you should just leave. Clearly, she's moved on." Something inside me snapped. I stepped forward, my voice louder, sharper than I'd ever heard it. "Moved on? While still living off me? While letting me believe we had a future? You're disgusting. Both of you." Her eyes narrowed. "You don't talk to me like that. You have no idea how many guys would kill to have me. You should be grateful I even gave you a chance." Grateful. That was the word she chose to throw at me while lying next to a stranger in the bed I had helped her pay for. My hands trembled, my jaw clenched, my heart pounded so hard it hurt. I wanted to scream, to break something, to erase the last 5 minutes from existence. But all I could do was stare at her, searching for any trace of the woman I once loved. She wasn't there. Maybe she never had been. And then, she said something so cruel, so cold, that it broke me in ways I didn't think were possible. I don't remember walking out of her apartment. I don't remember the stairs, or the street, or even how I made it back to my car. All I remember is the sound of my own breathing, ragged and uneven, as if my chest couldn't keep up with the weight of what I'd just seen. The roses were still in my hand, crushed and broken, their thorns digging into my palm. I didn't feel them. I didn't feel anything except the hollow echo of betrayal ringing in my head. When I finally told my friends, their outrage came like fire. My best friend slammed his fist against the table and said, "Man, she never deserved you. We all saw it. We tried to tell you." My sister cried, not because she'd liked her. She hadn't, but because she couldn't stand seeing me so shattered. My mom's voice shook with both anger and heartbreak when she whispered, "You gave that girl everything, and she threw it all away." Her side of the story was laughable. She tried to spin it as me being controlling, as if my working overtime to support her dreams was some form of manipulation. She told her friends I had no ambition, conveniently forgetting all the bills I'd covered while she chased hers. But lies have a way of unraveling. The more she talked, the more holes appeared. People stopped buying her excuses. And then came the outside voices. If this had been posted on Reddit, I know exactly what the comments would have looked like. "OP, she gaslit you from the start." Classic toxic girlfriend move, projecting her insecurities onto you. "You dodged a bullet, man. Be glad you found out now rather than later. Asterisk some would have been blunt. Asterisk she's trash. Don't waste another tear on her. Asterisk and others would have offered the kind of wisdom that stings but heals. Asterisk, sometimes love blinds us, but betrayal opens our eyes. Asterisk, hearing those words, even just in my own imagination, was strangely comforting. It reminded me I wasn't crazy. I wasn't weak. I was just a man who loved too deeply, and I gave that love to someone who didn't deserve it. But as the dust settled, I realized something important. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning. The weeks that followed felt like learning to breathe again. At first, the silence was unbearable. No texts, no calls, no constant ping of her presence. But slowly, that silence became peace. I started going back to the gym, not to impress anyone, but to feel strong in my own skin again. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected while pouring myself into her life, and for the first time in a long time, I laughed without wondering if someone else approved of it. I won't lie, it hurt. Love doesn't just vanish because the truth comes out. But day by day, I began to see the breakup not as a loss, but as a release. I had been chained to someone who thrived on taking, on belittling, on making me feel small so she could feel bigger. And now those chains were gone. The biggest lesson I learned? Loyalty means nothing in the hands of someone who doesn't respect it. You can pour your heart into another person, but if they don't value you, all that devotion only empties you. Boundaries aren't about being cold, they're about protecting your self-worth. And respect isn't optional in a relationship, it's the foundation. Without it, everything crumbles. Today, I don't see myself as the guy who was cheated on. I see myself as the guy who walked away, who chose dignity over humiliation, who decided that his love was worth more than being treated like an afterthought. So, to anyone listening who feels trapped in a toxic relationship, remember this: walking away isn't losing. Sometimes it's the only way to win.